Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. I thought that in honor of Poetry Thursday, the day when this video should be posted, I would give a poetry reading. I've pulled out a number of books from each of which I'm going to pull one poem. All of these poems will be sonnets, or at least profess themselves to be sonnets. I am not here today to quibble about whether an unrhymed sonnet of 14 lines is really a sonnet. I've got at least one such example, and I think it works well enough to satisfy my stringent demands. You wonder what my stringent demands are? Well, recently I have posted a couple of videos about the sonnet form, and I will put those in the description box, put links to those in the description box. So to start, I will read something translated by Creighton Gilbert, written by Michelangelo. One of my favorites by Michelangelo, Sonnet on Dante, 1546. When he'd come down from heaven and had seen still in his flesh both hells, the just and good, he went again alive to look on God, so as to let us have the whole true gleam. This was a shining star, and with its beam the nest where I was born unfairly glowed. No prize for him were the whole wicked world. That art thou only who created him. Dante, I mean, while his ungrateful city had hardly any knowledge of his action. Only the just do they deprive of safety. If I could have been he, born to such fortune, to have his bitter exile and his virtue, I would forego the world's most splendid portion. A lovely edition of some poems and letters. Next, I will take it back in time a little bit to a contemporary of Dante, Cecco Angiolieri. And in this case, however, I'm going to read his most famous sonnet, but as translated by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. It's much better in the original, and there exist better translations than this, but I do not have them handy. And I think the version, actually, of any of his sonnets done by Dante Gabriel Rossetti are of interest in themselves just because of the fact of their translator. So this, again, is Cecco's most famous sonnet. If I were fire, I'd burn the world away. If I were wind, I'd turn my storms thereon. If I were water, I'd soon let it drown. If I were God, I'd sink it from the day. If I were Pope, I'd never feel quite gay until there was no peace beneath the sun. If I were Emperor, what would I have done? I'd lop men's heads all round in my own way. If I were death, I'd look my father up. If I were life, I'd run away from him and treat my mother to like calls and runs. If I were Cecco, and that's all my hope, I'd pick the nicest girls to suit my whim, and other folk should get the ugly ones. As I say, much nicer in the original. Next, I'll bring it a little bit more contemporary to Don Patterson. He is, I think, almost my exact contemporary, if I recall correct. And let's see. This is called A Pocket horizon. The idea, I guess, is on the kind of day the vapors are sent down to blind and choke us, one still might gain some distance, much the way this shot glass seems to give me a little focus, or this stone in my shoe some foothold on events. Its disk of jet on 3 gold screws would do for a doll's house table at a doll's house seance. I'm trying to what exactly? Level with you? Chin down on the bar rail and one-eyed to get it true and straight and down to scale. But my red eye looms above its tiny tide, and my breath is screaming like a winter gale. I think there's no one on the other side. Oh, love, where is my white or my black sail? Again, that was Don Patterson. A lovely, lovely little book, a lovely design. Now I'm going to go for probably the most famous of the sonnets and almost certainly the greatest of those that I will be presenting tonight. William Butler Yeats did not have a particular affinity for the sonnet form. They are strikingly absent, excuse me, from his oeuvre. But in this particular case, he turned his hand at it and produced a masterpiece. So this is called Leda and the Swan. A sudden blow, the great wings beating still above the staggering girl, her thighs caressed by the dark webs, her nape caught in his bill. He holds her helpless breast upon his breast. How can those terrified, vague fingers push the feathered glory from her loosening thighs? And how can body, laid in that white rush, but feel the strange heart beating where it lies? A shudder in the loins engenders there the broken wall, the burning roof and tower, and Agamemnon dead. Being so caught up, so mastered by the brute blood of the air, did she put on his knowledge with his power before the indifferent beak could let her drop? From 1924, William Butler Yeats. And for something a little bit different, this is Dorothy Parker, who tried her hands at a variety of poetic forms. This is titled, I Know I Have Been Happiest. At least it's so titled here in the book. I don't know if she gave it the title or if that's just because it's a part of the first line. I know I have been happiest at your side, but what is done, and all's to be, and small the good to linger dolefully. Gaily it lived, and gallantly it died. I will not make you songs of hearts denied, and you, being man, would have no tears of me. And should I offer you fidelity, you'd be, I think, a little terrified. Yet this the need of woman, this her curse, to range her little gifts and give, because the throb of giving's sweet to bear. To you, who never begged me vows or verse, my gift shall be my absence while I live. But after that, my dear, I cannot swear. So you almost hear a little bit of Edna St Vincent Millay in there, not of the caliber of Millay, but still, nevertheless, an interesting piece. And this, the next poet, this is the unrhymed sonnet that I spake of, And I'm not quite sure how to say this poet's name, Nissim Ezekiel or Ezekiel. Sonnet. Things unsubdued subdue the weakened will. The bride is but a common girl. Deceive the eye, perish the rational mind. Reflect. Ambition fails, and kings have lost their thrones. At first, the beloved merely finds fault. Later comes the slow, unresponsive kiss. Between the first encounter and the friend no more, the truth is known. The truth is in the face when morning breaks. I love the perfect modulated voice, but let it be ambiguous, not assured. Reality is not concealed by what the words display. In bitter secrecy, a central image grows or shrinks away. Again, Nissim Ezekiel, or Ezekiel, I'm not sure. A nice volume. And a little something by a modern day formalist, Katherine Chandler. This is titled Henslow's Sparrow. Hope is the thing with feathers. Emily Dickinson, number 254. The Henslow's sparrow lives among the sedge, in meadows where the tall grass sighs and bends. It has been known to skip along the ledge of surface mines where the escarpment ends. This delegate of an endangered breed, whose song is just a whispering refrain, will perch atop a rosy trumpet weed, unruffled by the darkness and the rain. Or so they say, for I have yet to spy the shy, elusive bird, or hear its song, except in Audubon recordings. I admit to shaky faith, but play along. And though my yard's a skirl of jays and crows, someday it might show up. One never knows. Sort of a bit of a mispronunciation there on my part. I'm not thoroughly familiar with any of these poems. Now, it may happen in the next. As Dylan Thomas said, that was the jam, now comes the pill. I will close out with two of my own sonnets, not from either of my books of sonnets. So the first one is from The Rip of Gales, a real short little thing. And I thought there were two sonnets in this book, but apparently only one. And this should have many echoes to different poems, actually to different classic sonnets. Those echoes were intentional. When a young poet does it, they are not always intentional. But when an older poet, and by this time I was older, they are intentional for the most part. And it is titled Sonnet. Lord, when I fathom how exist my days in tedious chores, or waiting for the next illusion to reveal itself perplexed, vexed in attainment, how then shall I praise? When I consider, though the light amaze, suffusing of this world, caught in no text, written by hand of scribe that was unsexed, I wonder how shall I persist my ways. When I have fears, not that I soon shall cease, but outlive talents that were never strong, without a prayer in all the world's increase, to send my roots rain, parchment overlong, reverberating dull soliloquies. How shall I call it anything but wrong? I don't think my whatever that possibility that I proposed, I think that since my writing of poems has exhausted itself, I think my allotment of talent carried me through to the end, I suppose. And this actually being one of the last works. This is poems based upon songs from the Arabian Nights. Alas, the day we parted, I recall. It happened that my tears flowed down in streams. The camel driver called his beasts, and gall became my heart. My mouth voiced silent screams. Sans strength, sans patience, I went back, although in pain and torment of love's passion sunk, till a pretender came who mocked my woe with false humility as though a monk. Now that my love has gone, my soul must leave aside all pleasures in this life. Now I've lost hope that I might otherwise than grieve, and it is certain I will not survive. Friend, pay attention when I speak. My story let be a warning and exhortatory. So if I numbered them right, that was a selection of 9 sonnets, with my own being the only voice to receive 2 different sonnets. Well, I will leave that be. That's a bit of ego, I suppose. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.